Hello everybody, ShadyRiku here and welcome to Kingdom Hearts deleted content. Today's video is going to be a huge compilation of every piece of deleted content that I could find for Kingdom Hearts. Now, deleted content just means anything that was planned to be included in Kingdom Hearts at one point or another during its development, but ultimately didn't make it into the final game. This ranges from enemies, characters and entire worlds that were removed from the game to plot points, cutscenes and even gameplay mechanics that were all scrapped. Absolutely everything will be compiled here and organised into different sections which you can navigate using the timestamps in the description. I have scoured the internet for months now, compiling all this info into one massive video which will probably be well over an hour long. I'm sure you've seen that I've made an entire series of YouTube shorts called Kingdom Hearts deleted content, which to be honest doesn't even scratch the surface of what is in this compilation, so even for those of you that have seen the entire series, you will undoubtedly learn new stuff, and for anyone who has commented on these videos, you may get a shout out, as I have used the many helpful comments under these shorts to add additional information or to clarify points. Also, before we begin, a massive thank you for 10,000 subscribers. This was a huge milestone of mine, and as a token of my appreciation, I've set up a Discord for you all to join. Link is in the description. And if you would like to have your name appear right here on my videos, among many other perks, go join my Patreon today. Link is in the description. I've actually just recently started a new series of Kingdom Hearts deleted content for the other games in the series, which will be Patreon exclusive, so if you want to go see them, go and join the Patreon today. Also, if you don't have Patreon, don't worry, I've set up channel memberships here on YouTube, which will give you access to the Chain of Memories deleted content series, along with exclusive emojis and a cool badge next to your name. So I have used several sources for my information. First is concept art. This is art that is used to give animators a general idea of what everything should look like, and gives us ideas of what characters, worlds and outfits were initially planned to look like, but changed at one point or another. Next is using the Kingdom Hearts Wiki and the Kingdom Hearts Fandom, which are both websites that have their own pages dedicated to content that was removed from Kingdom Hearts. Links to these pages are in the description. Another great source is the leaked design document, which was a file given to staff who worked on the game to give them a general overview of Kingdom Hearts. Inside this document are many pages of text and images which reveal very early plot points, unused worlds and character designs that were all scrapped. There was also an early E3 beta trailer released to the public showcasing the early development of Kingdom Hearts. And from this video, which I will link in the description, we see that game mechanics, story elements and cutscenes were all altered or removed entirely. IMDb of all places has a page of trivia dedicated to Kingdom Hearts, in which users can submit unique pieces of information about the game, and among them are facts about the deleted content of Kingdom Hearts. There's also a website called the Cutting Room Floor, dedicated to researching unused content from video games. This website has an amazing section about Kingdom Hearts, which I found very helpful during my research as well. There's also different official books released for each of the Kingdom Hearts games called Ultimanias. Unfortunately, most of these are exclusively in Japanese, but from what has been translated throughout the years, I've been able to gather some great pieces of information regarding deleted content. There are also a bunch of videos across YouTube that I discovered during my research, which brought some of this deleted content to light. I will of course credit the creators and their respective videos when I get to that particular piece of deleted content. My search also brought me to Reddit and other websites, which will be linked accordingly. And finally, I have extensively read through all the interviews with the various staff that worked on the game, including its director Tetsuya Nomura. Most of these interviews are in those Ultimania books that I spoke about before, and they reveal lots of different ideas that the team had planned to include in the game during its development and why they never made it into Kingdom Hearts. Links to these interviews will be in the description as well. So using all of these different sources, I'm going to filter them into categories for a nice coherent video, so that by the end you should be aware of every single piece of removed content from Kingdom Hearts that we are currently aware of. If I have missed anything or you have your own theories about why anything was removed from Kingdom Hearts, let me know in the comments section. But with that out of the way, let's begin Kingdom Hearts deleted content. I hope you enjoy. So the video, like I said before, will be filtered into different categories, and they are as follows. So we're going to go and start with deleted characters, then removed worlds, altered plot points in the story section, then talk about the Gummi ship, followed by the removed gameplay mechanics, deleted enemies, and then talk about everything else that doesn't fit into the above categories to wrap the video up in the other section. Timestamps for everything will be in the description as always, so let's get into this. And so let's begin with characters. So starting with the main character, Sora's overall design was set for him to be a weird half lion, half boy character with the recognisable crown on his head and symbol on his jacket to match. The Keyblade concept was also not present, with Sora's original weapon looking like a paperclip to me, but it seems like everyone, including my subscribers, said that this was to be a chainsaw type weapon, so I'll take your word on it. Maybe it just doesn't look like a chainsaw because it's the base model and maybe gained teeth as we gain new variations of this weapon, similar to the relatively harmless look of the Kingdom Key and subsequently more dangerous looking weapons obtained later in the game. This weapon was also going to have the Griever symbol associated with Leon as its keychain, but this of course was reused in the design of the Lionheart Keyblade, which we also get from Leon. By the way, if any of you have the 1.5 HD remix, you may have gotten this cool art book, which also doubles as a holder for the game disc. This came with my PlayStation 3 version of Kingdom Hearts 1.5. Not sure if they came with every version, please let me know in the comments. Either way, on the back of this booklet we see a version of this Lion Boy Sora further into development, with the removal of his paws, a reduction in overall fur along the legs, suspenders on the shorts, an open jacket, and most importantly the replacement of the chainsaw weapon with the one and only Keyblade, with the Griever symbol now going on Sora's jacket above the word Kingdom. This design actually made it pretty far into development, with screenshots of gameplay using this model found in the design document, which shows that Sora's hair was silver and his shorts were orange. Here is a HD image of what Sora would have looked like at this stage in development. But what happened to his tail? Well, it was also revealed in the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania that the tail was removed to avoid overlap with Final Fantasy IX, referring to the fact that the main character from that game, Zidane Tribal, also had a tail. The overall design of Sora's clothes also became less streamlined and more curvy to match with Donald and Goofy's aesthetics. The age of Riku was originally set to be the same as Sora's, as seen in the design document, which would have been 14, but he was aged up to 15 for the release of the game. This makes sense considering Riku is a little bit more mature than Sora in the game, and Sora being a little bit more naive. But in fact, the entire Destiny Islands trio were set to be a lot less serious, as seen from this concept art. They were actually originally going to be a lot more expressive and cartoony looking. However, it was revealed in an interview with Tetsuya Nomura, the game's director, that he was told the whole theme of the story and characters needed to be more mature in order to capture their pre-existing Final Fantasy audience, otherwise the game would have seemed too childish and it would flop. Once again, I agree with this decision. I got Kingdom Hearts when I was 10, and although what drew me to it was the Disney characters, if the other characters had looked overly cartoony, I would have assumed it was too much of a kids game and may never have played it. So a great decision, even though admittedly some of these do look very cool and would have given life to our main trio, especially Kairi, who really needed it considering we only get to see her for a short while. So Donald was originally designed to appear in his iconic sailor suit, and Goofy was designed to appear in his normal attire. We see from the early E3 beta trailer that gameplay of Donald and Goofy with these outfits existed quite late into development. Donald, as we know, was redesigned to look like a mage and Goofy as a knight, both adopting classic RPG style outfits. And we see from early concept art back when Sora was still half lion, Donald and Goofy were going to keep these outfits throughout the entire game. For some reason though, Donald and Goofy only appear like this in Disney Castle during Kingdom Hearts and change to more of a mix of the two outfits for the entirety of the game. Donald and Goofy's outfits were changed upon Disney's suggestion in order to have original outfits for Kingdom Hearts. Disney said they wanted a Nomura style design, and so for them to match with Sora, their outfits included zippers, a staple of Nomura's drawings, but he kept their colour scheme the same in order to not make them feel too different. Nomura also reveals that a piece of artwork showing Sora, Donald and Goofy together was created to check the sense of balance between the trio, and admits that it was created so early on that Donald and Goofy remained in their standard outfits. Remnants of the original outfits, however, can be found at the end of the game after the credits, where the party make their way to Castle Oblivion. This cutscene also is reused as the opening cutscene for Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. I'm not exactly sure why they mysteriously swap outfits at different points in the game. I'm guessing the RPG style outfits could be a Disney Castle exclusive form, similar to how they change form in Atlantica and Halloween Town. This also makes sense considering Disney Castle was meant to be a playable world, more on that later. Well, Shady, why did they appear in their original outfits at the end of the game then? Well, it was also revealed that this cutscene was finished just before they changed the designs for Donald and Goofy, and they kept it in probably due to time constraints, which you'll see throughout this video is the main reason for content being removed from Kingdom Hearts. In the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania, there is a gallery of images depicting different characters, and I believe it's Tetsuya Nomura who comments on them, but I'm not 100% sure. Thankfully, this has been translated from Japanese and gives us a lot of information about character changes. For example, he planned to have Irvine from Final Fantasy VIII play the role of Wakka, but no matter how many times Nomura tried, he couldn't find a design for him to fit with the theme of Destiny Islands, and so Wakka took his place right before the game's deadline. It would have been cool to have this character included, but I understand how it would have been hard to make this character work considering he carries a gun weapon. I had a theory that he would have used a water gun, but one of my subscribers points out that he would have used a slingshot, which probably makes a lot more sense. What do you guys think? Nomura had also planned to give Selphie a different outfit from her Final Fantasy VIII one, but by mistake they turned out basically the same, and he most likely didn't have the time or inclination to change it. So there's a complicated story behind the character of Yuffie, as stated in the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania. It's revealed that the original Traverse Town trio we know and love, Leon, Yuffie and Aerith, at some point were actually much different, with Yuffie occupying a completely different role in the story which was never explained. If you have any theories, please let me know. With her part initially being cast for a different Final Fantasy character, Riku from Final Fantasy X. Due to time constraints, the team had to remove Yuffie's role in the story, and then decide between either Yuffie or Riku to take a main character role in the trio. Because of these circumstances, they actually modelled the body to suit either character. Eventually, the team settled on Yuffie, and Riku was removed entirely from the game. Although never stated, I'm almost sure it had to do with the obvious similarities between the name Riku and our favourite main character, Rikku, and so to avoid confusion, it makes sense that she was scrapped. Of course, Riku would later make an appearance in Kingdom Hearts 2 as part of the Fairy Trio. Remember I said that initially the main Traverse Town trio were very different? Well, not only did Yuffie almost get cut, but up until about halfway into development, Aerith's role was also occupied by a different Square Enix character, Aya from Parasite Eve, a PS1 game developed by Square in 1998, but she was replaced with Aerith due to requests from the staff members who worked on Final Fantasy VII. As a result, she was added into the game with the story elements connecting her to Cloud growing from there. Tifa from Final Fantasy VII was also supposed to make an appearance in Kingdom Hearts 1 as a secret boss similar to Sephiroth, but with an up-close melee style of attack. But due to time constraints, the team had to choose between whether to include Tifa or Sephiroth as a secret boss in Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, and so they opted for Sephiroth. However, like Riku, she was added to Kingdom Hearts 2, this time as a more developed character. Vincent Valentine, a character from Final Fantasy VII, was to be included as well, but instead his character's design was merged with Cloud from the same game to create the iconic Kingdom Hearts design for Cloud we know and love, sporting Vincent's red cape and claw-like left arm. Even Ansem went through some redesigns, with him initially planned to have golden hair and pale skin, but as the game's director looked at several colour variations, he settled with the colours we see today, the exact opposite of what was planned. Inside the book known as Kingdom Hearts Character Reports, the game's director Tetsuya Nomura comments on different characters. one of which is Pete, and it's revealed that Nomura actually wanted to put him in Kingdom Hearts 1, but due to having plenty of villains already, adding him to the story would have created too many loose ends, and so he was removed. Also, Nomura wanted to include Walt Disney himself in the game, but that idea got rejected. I'm assuming it was just going to be the iconic Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse statue included somewhere in Disney Castle. No way he would have been an actual character. Okay, next, let's talk about everyone's favourite topic, the worlds of Kingdom Hearts. Now, which worlds didn't make it into the final game? The most well known, I would say, is definitely Disney Castle. We see Sora running through the halls of Disney Castle in the early beta trailer for the game, and this world can actually still be accessed via cheat codes, since areas of Disney Castle are used in cutscenes in the final game. Here are some screenshots from the cutting room floor showing some of these playable areas, as well as the pause menu logo for this world. In an interview with Jun Akiyama, the game event planning director, he said that the team wanted to keep that world purely Disney, so Sora and other characters wouldn't be able to go there, and yet to this day they still tease us by having Disney Castle viewable from the world map. Of course, we can't actually fly the Gummi ship here, but it would have been cool to have a world like this, possibly without Heartless, to just explore and relax at during your journey. Another pretty well known piece of information is that a world based on Toy Story was planned, as seen in this world map image found in the Kingdom Hearts design document. We see Andy's house and Al's toy barn. The world itself is shaped as a rocket, with a largely space-themed motif based on the Pizza Planet arcade from the Toy Story movie. Because this space theme is so heavily present, I would bet that a large portion of the story would have taken place inside the Pizza Planet arcade, with many different minigames to play, including a racing type minigame as evidenced by the racing checkered pattern on the rocket. In fact, this whole planet could have been one huge world of minigames. What do you guys think? Also, there's a piece of concept art floating about showing a planned Western style world, which my subscribers unanimously voted would have been a Toy Story world. I tend to disagree because there's almost no indication that this is 100% a Toy Story world, and this is all speculation. Plus, we already just seen that the Toy Story world would have been space themed. The only thing it could have been based on is the TV show from Toy Story 2, Woody's Roundup, which of course has a wild Western design. However, it seems strange to base an entire world off this quite forgettable part of the movie, so I'm not convinced. Another idea is that it could have been based on the Wild West section of Disney's Magic Kingdom theme parks, called Frontierland, the area that includes the likes of Big Thunder Mountain, which in my opinion is quite possible because a lot of the Disney theme parks are referenced not only in the concept art but actually in the final game. Couple of which I've talked about before in my Easter eggs and hidden details series of shorts, link is in the description. But what really throws me is the floating cow balloon with a claw coming from it and a cow ranch on the underside of the world. The only cow Disney movie I can think of is Home on the Range, which came out in 2004, 2 years after the release of Kingdom Hearts, so it's hard to imagine it was in development all those years ago, and that its first appearance would have been in a PlayStation 2 game rather than the movie, so I don't think so. So if you have any ideas about this, please let me know, but if I was a betting man, I would say it's based on Frontierland from the Disney theme parks. Another scrapped world was unfortunately a world based on Atlantis, the Lost Empire. This is one of my personal favourite Disney movies, so I was gutted when I read in an interview with Tetsuya Nomura that this was planned to be included in the game, but he didn't think it was a good fit because of all the robots and vehicles, in contrast to the cartoony Gummi ship, and because it didn't have a good connection to the other worlds and story in general. I agree that it would have been a little out of place and hard to make work, but a man can dream of an alternate universe where this was put in Kingdom Hearts. Another well-known world cut from Kingdom Hearts 1 was the Pride Lands. In the book Kingdom Hearts series Ultimania Alpha, Tetsuya Nomura revealed that he wanted this in the game, but required additional programming to make the characters into four-legged animals, so the team gave up and used the world for Kingdom Hearts 2 instead. Similarly, in the Kingdom Hearts 2 Ultimania book, there is an interview with Tetsuya Nomura where he reveals that during the development of Kingdom Hearts 1, There were plans for a Jungle Book world, but due to the similarities with the Deep Jungle, the team had to choose between the two, and ultimately went with Tarzan over the Jungle Book. Do you guys think they made the right decision? In a different interview, game director Tetsuya Nomura said that there were over 20 worlds originally planned to be included in the game. Now, I'm going to make a video in the future discussing what these 20 worlds were going to be, so when that's made I will link it in the description. Let's move on from just completely removed worlds and talk about deleted areas within the worlds that did make it into the game. Let's start with everyone's favourite, Destiny Islands. So from early concept art we see that the treehouse on Destiny Islands would have been its own area with different entrances and exits, equipped with a round table in the centre, stump-like chairs, a balcony overlooking the whole area, a fur rug at what was most likely the main entrance, and cooking/storage equipment on a shelf. In my opinion, the whole theme seemed more like Lord of the Flies rather than what we got in the final game. But to be honest, I still think this is really cool, and in my opinion could have acted like a main hangout area for all the kids of Destiny Islands, which was missing from the final game. This could have led to scenes involving the main trio interacting with Selphie, Tidus and Wakka, as well as scenes where they all ate together up here, as seen in this concept art, which we will talk about later when we get to the story section. The secret place could have also originally been connected with the treehouse, considering there appears to be many different openings leading to darker areas, as well as potential sketches on the walls in here, just like in the secret place. Overall, it would have been a much better use of the treehouse instead of in the final game, where it's only used to hide a piece of cloth. It always seemed to me a little bit underutilized, so at least I now have closure that it was meant for something much greater. If we zoom out to another piece of concept art, we get a good look at the overall plan for the original Destiny Islands. Overall, it looks like one big treehouse with a way more cartoony vibe, equipped with wacky looking bridges and slides which would have acted like the jungle slider minigame, as seen from these images where a character jumps over a branch just like in the Deep Jungle, and this image of Sora sliding. This would have been a great introduction to the sliding mechanics of Kingdom Hearts, and as seen here, the end of the slide would have dropped us in water most likely, again giving us practice with the game's swimming mechanics. In fact, it was still in use so late into development that there is official HD artwork showing this world icon and what it would have looked like. Now, this treehouse version of Destiny Islands was planned to be included very late into development, as it was still in use when they were making the design document. If I had to guess, it was probably altered due to it being too similar to the treehouse of the Deep Jungle world, and so decided to go more for an island motif rather than focus on the treehouse. And for a similar reason, the team decided not to include Neverland itself in the Peter Pan world due to the obvious similarities with Destiny Islands, and instead opted for more unique and iconic locations such as Captain Hook's ship and the clock tower. This was explained in an interview with Takeshi Endo, the map planning director of Kingdom Hearts. Throughout the design document, official artwork for Sora's room appears on multiple pages, and in one of these we see a gameplay image of Sora in this room, indicating that Sora's room was originally going to be a playable area instead of just that one cutscene after day 2 on Destiny Islands. This would explain why the room was so detailed and included cool objects that we never get to see from the cutscene, as showcased in this Kingdom Hearts Boundary Break video. Link is in the description. And as far as I'm aware, is the only area outside the Door to Darkness and Disney Castle that we see in the game to not be playable. And as we've just discussed, Disney Castle was indeed planned to be included, and so Sora's room would have made sense as well. Because it's only shown at night, I'm guessing it would have only been accessible at this very specific point in the game during the storm of Destiny Islands, and the team probably thought there was no point having it included, as we would have just walked through the window presumably and got back to Destiny Islands, so they just cut out the middleman. But I still think they should have let us explore Sora's room. It's also possible, because of the emphasis on the desk in this piece of concept art and a lone piece of paper, that a scene where Sora either writes a letter to his mum to say goodbye was possibly on the table at some point in development, or at the very least the letter gets shown in this panoramic scene of Sora's room. giving us at least a little bit of closure for Sora's mum, who I always felt very sad for because she presumably loses her son with no idea why. Moving on, we have an early sketch of what is most likely Traverse Town or some other original world. The overall house design is similar to those we would find in Traverse Town, but for some reason looped around the world like a belt instead of being on top of the world. At the top is most likely the early sketch for Merlin's mystical house, and we see more weird floating balloons outside the world itself. Now remember when we talked about this weird cow world that was potentially going to be used for a Toy Story world? Well, it also had a weird balloon style object floating on the outskirts. And even if we look at the early concept art for Disney Castle, again there are objects orbiting around the world. Now, I will soon discuss this in more detail when I get to the Gummi ships section, but it was revealed in the design document that the team originally wanted to include minigames and boss battles during our Gummi ship routes, and for me it would only make sense to have these heartless type enemies floating around the worlds if we were going to have to fight them with the Gummi ship. I'm actually fairly confident with this theory, and if anyone would like to add to it, please discuss it down in the comments. As we've just seen, there is concept art for Disney Castle as well, showing what seems to be the destruction of the world as it splits in half, revealing a Mickey Mouse head at its core. There seem to have been a castle, a town hall, boat, and what looks like a Colosseum type arena. Wonder what that could have been? If I had to say, I would guess that this is based on Toontown, one of the themed areas of the Disneyland parks. The world icon for Agrabah was originally a lot more intricately designed, with the shape of Agrabah resembling that of the magic lamp, sporting a handle and a spout, with smoke coming from the inside of the lamp to create the clouds around the world. I actually thought this was a very clever design, but maybe the team thought it looked too much like a teapot, I don't know. The idea must have grown on them because this design was later used for Agrabah's world icon in Kingdom Hearts 2. An area of Hollow Bastion, called the Hollow Keep, was planned to be used as a dark, gothic, ruin-styled area where the Princesses of Heart were going to be held, with them being on display above keyholes, with Snow White being held in place by chains in the form of flowers to match her world, and Aurora being held in place by the Thorns of Maleficent from her world, which was altered in the final game to just be crystals, which was much blander in my opinion. This eerie room also had like a dragon / lion type statue with what looks to be a keyblade, I'm not sure. Overall, a very sinister looking room, and definitely what you would have expected at this point in the game. And finally, at the end of the world, when we reach the final rest and walk through the final door, we are taken back to Destiny Islands, or at least what's left of it, to have our final fight with Ansem. However, there is an unused area at this point in the game that would have hosted one of the many final battles, and during my research everyone mentioned that this was planned to be used for the Riku Ansem boss battle, but I couldn't find any evidence to support this. This actually would make chronological sense based on the initially planned story of Kingdom Hearts, which I will explain when I get to this section regarding deleted plot elements. We see from the final game that this deep cavern type area was replaced by a much more boring and flat battlefield, although it stayed inside that cool purple arena. Because this arena was removed at the last minute, it can still be found in the game's data and accessed via cheat codes. In fact, there are multiple videos on YouTube showcasing gameplay in this unused area, which I have playing on screen now. And by pausing the game here, we see the official name of this boss battle area is Crumbling Island. Scattered around this crumbling island are corrupted parts of Destiny Islands, including trees, water, and even warped versions of stars which resemble Paw-Poo fruits, and the star from the race with Riku. Once again, I think they really dropped the ball with this one. This would have been a much more refreshing and engaging environment to fight in than what we got in the final game. There were also a couple of minor changes planned for the areas of worlds that did make it into Kingdom Hearts as seen in the E3 beta trailer for the game. For example, the doors to the Olympus Coliseum lobby were lying wide open instead of shut like we know them. The hippos were missing from the Hippos Lagoon area of the Deep Jungle, probably just known as the Lagoon back then. This was backed up in concept art for this area, in which the hippos are also missing. And the tent of the Deep Jungle was also open, indicating that it was originally going to be another part of the camp instead of its own separate area. This probably means that the camp was intended to be a Heartless free area, but my guess is that for story purposes, having Heartless appear at the camp and being able to trigger different cutscenes when we enter and exit the tent made the story flow better, so they kept it in as a separate room. We can also see from the trailer and design document that the area just outside the accessory shop was noticeably bigger, roughly twice the size of what we get in the final game. A quick note on Traverse Town as well, as seen from the E3 trailer for Kingdom Hearts. It seems as though Traverse Town was intended to have a much darker atmosphere, which I'm glad they changed, as Traverse Town was always a peaceful and calm world for me. Let's just wrap this section up by talking about some changes that were made from development to the final game by looking at the concept art for Kingdom Hearts. The secret place on Destiny Islands, for example, had more drawings than in the final game, with some of these being removed, most noticeably the ones on the door, which also had a visible keyhole at this point. Prior to the release of Kingdom Hearts, the door in the secret place became very bland looking, with the removal of the graffiti and the keyhole as well. Although we do know that the keyhole stayed quite late into development because it makes an appearance in a removed cutscene during the beta trailer for the game. We also see from this piece of concept art that there were originally large boxes located in the alleyway in Traverse Town's 2nd district, similar to those found in the 1st district. This was confirmed later in the beta trailer, where the boxes make an appearance in another deleted scene, which we will come back to in the story section. In the Deep Jungle world, according to this piece of concept art, the keyhole for the world, which is found in the Cavern of Hearts area behind the waterfall, was much higher off the ground than what we see in the game. In the concept art for the main street of Agrabah, we see that the building that contained Aladdin's house was completely missing, and his house was likely relegated to somewhere on the ground level, with this being a likely point of entry. In Kingdom Hearts, the area was moved up from the ground, and what were likely the original entrances now have poles that we climb up to get to Aladdin's house, whereas before it looks like we had to do a lot more platforming to get around Agrabah. The desert area of Agrabah had a cool gradient going from daytime towards Agrabah to nighttime towards the Cave of Wonders, with the point in between having a beautiful red desert sky, as seen from this piece of concept art. Perhaps they ran out of time to make this because in Kingdom Hearts the desert is in perpetual daylight instead of guiding you to the different areas of Agrabah using the sky, which would have been much more useful and looked way cooler. It also seemed like there were originally going to be sentient slabs of bacteria inside Monstro that would presumably attack the party with their arm. Weird. I just know these things would have been annoying, so I'm glad they were removed. And the torture chamber, the area where we fight Oogie, was originally a lot more crowded with these Christmas type lights scattered all over the room, which were removed from the game before its release. There are other minor changes that we see throughout these pieces of concept art, but there's almost too many little variables to go over in this video, so I will leave a link in the description to all this concept art so you can have a look yourself. So throughout my research, by piecing different pieces of information together, I was able to come up with some major plot points and story elements that were altered or removed entirely, and I'm going to cover them all in this section of the video and try to organise them chronologically. So as we know, Kingdom Hearts is a game that was created through the collaboration of the video game company now known as Square Enix and Disney. Interestingly, the Square side of production wanted Mickey Mouse to be the main character, but Disney wanted Donald Duck. Eventually they landed on a compromise of Goofy. No, only joking, no one wanted him, sorry. Whoa. Instead they created their own original character, Sora. There were actually meant to be a lot more original characters which would have occupied the non-Disney worlds, such as Traverse Town and Destiny Islands, but instead they used characters from a different series of games created by Square Enix, Final Fantasy, which again I feel was the right decision. There were multiple changed or altered cutscenes which we get to see from the E3 beta trailer. For example, the scene where Sora is falling into the dive to the heart area at the beginning of the game has the Snow White panel in full view the entire time, but we know that in the final game, Sora arriving at this dreamlike area happens during the CGI opening cutscene and has Sora land on the platform, which begins to reveal itself when Sora lands on it. This causes doves to fly away in this iconic scene, to then reveal the Snow White glass panel. The original plans for the opening sequence at the Dive to the Heart area had Sora falling with his back to the glass panel, which is the way he falls into the water during the opening scene, and comes out of the water in the opposite direction. Considering there are bubbles just above Sora, this was definitely what they had initially planned for the opening sequence. However, in the actual game, he falls vertically and lands feet first onto the panel. We also see from early concept art that the light that shines down came from another panel, whereas in Kingdom Hearts the light has no origin, at least that we can see. So continuing the story with what I'm assuming to be the Treehouse version of Destiny Islands, we see a very cartoony main trio, and it seems as though Kairi would have had a more motherly role, as she's seen cooking food for the boys at a giant cauldron, and later serving it to Riku and Sora, who begins to choke on the chicken before spitting it at Riku. We see Sora drinking, and with a full belly as well. I'm assuming the tree in the middle would have been replaced with this large wooden table, or even originally this could have taken place inside that large wooden structure that separates the two sides of Destiny Islands, as we never get to see the inside. Even Kairi is seen hitting this early designed soldier Heartless with a ladle. In fact, this whole scene would have taken place on Destiny Islands, so I wonder how early the Heartless were going to appear. And was this soldier prototype going to be the mascot for the Heartless, similar to the Shadows in the final game? This was backed up in the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania gallery, where Nomura comments under the soldier and says that this design became the concept behind all Heartless. But they needed a Heartless that would be easy to display en masse, and so the simple design of the Shadow was created, and then became the new icon for the Heartless. We also see Sora doing handstands, sliding, a cool victory pose, and multiple images where the trio are contemplating and looking for something, possibly questioning the origin of the Heartless that they just defeated. I also wonder why both Sora and Riku had Keyblades, and so early in the game too. Either way, I won't question it too much since it was very early in development, and story was most likely very rough at this point. Seeing the cartoony vibe, expressive faces, and slapstick humour really makes you wish that they leaned more into this style. Yes, there are instances of this throughout the game, but even Jun Akiyama, the game event planning director, admitting that they wanted more Disney-esque gags, but again, a lot of this was changed to suit a more mature audience, but even I think that this is hilarious, and if they just restricted this to certain scenes, it would have kept a good balance. In fact, in the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania, it was also revealed that at one point, ideas about Kairi being a playable character were floating about, alongside plans to make her have more of a personality, but they had to postpone these ideas at the time. The cutscene at the end of the first day on Destiny Islands where the main trio talk originally took place during the day rather than at sunset. And similarly, the scene with Sora and Kairi was also set to take place at midday, but changed to be at sunset, with Sora and Kairi beside each other in a much more romantic looking scene rather than at an L shape to one another as seen in the trailer. We also see right at the end of the E3 trailer an unused cutscene where Sora enters the secret place on Destiny Islands, revealing the door inside here actually had a visible keyhole at this point in development, and the scene ends with Sora inserting his keyblade into the keyhole instead of shooting a beam of light like he does for the actual game. The only time I could realistically see this taking place is before Destiny Islands gets destroyed, and if so, we now have a very unique timeline set out compared to what we see in the final game. After fighting Darkseid, we were meant to have a cutscene as seen in the E3 trailer where Sora meets Riku. Riku then responds to whatever Sora says and tells him that your body, your soul, your whole existence, they're all going to disappear, which prompts Sora to attack him in a completely scrapped scene. A minor cutscene change as we see from the E3 beta trailer is that when Donald and Goofy look up at the stars in Traverse Town, instead of this taking place near the alleyway of the first district, it was initially going to occur at the lamppost at the other side of the accessory shop. There were also multiple unbreakable crates that appeared here, but thankfully were replaced by one breakable crate, making Traverse Town feel a lot cleaner. In fact, the whole story portion of Donald and Goofy meeting Sora was going to take place in Traverse Town's first district, as we see them introducing themselves to each other later on in the trailer near the world exit at the first district, not the third district as we know it. So I'm guessing that when the party is fighting the mobs of shadows and soldiers here in the first district, presumably this is either a precursor to the guard armor fight or instead of the guard armor fight entirely. Either way, we would have had all the action take place here in the first district instead of the third district if they kept this. One scene that was heavily altered back when the E3 trailer was released was the scene where Sora wakes up in the alleyway of the first district. But my theory is that back then this was actually going to be the second district, as we see Sora running from something in the alleyway of the second district of Traverse Town, which is full of boxes and pots similar to the ones in the first district, giving it a bit more character compared to what we got in the final game. My guess is that he wakes up here and the cutscene immediately plays where he is desperately running from something as seen in the trailer. He then makes it to the open area of the second district where Sora looks up, and from this one frame near the end of the trailer we see that he's looking up at shadows that are falling from the roof of the Gizmo shop. This whole sequence was scrapped from the game in favour of the one at the first district. So to recap the story at this heavily altered portion of the game, using what we see in the E3 trailer, Sora leaves his bedroom, enters the secret place where he learns about the Keyblade and the keyholes, and inserts his Keyblade into the door. The tornado then destroys the island, he defeats Darkseid, then meets and attacks Riku, then Destiny Islands gets destroyed and Donald and Goofy see the star in the sky representing Destiny Islands flicker out while standing beside the accessory shop steps. Sora then wakes up in Traverse Town 2nd District where he begins running scared as he's being attacked by shadows. At some point the trio end up fighting groups of soldiers and shadows in the 1st District and introduce themselves after the battle beside the Traverse Town World exit door before going on their adventure together. There is another removed cutscene from the trailer where Riku is seen atop the clock tower in Neverland, most likely spying on Sora after the defeat of Captain Hook. Gordy Katz says that this scene was later reused in Kingdom Hearts Recoded in the data for the Kingdom Hearts 1 journal. And at the secret ending in Birth by Sleep there's another short scene where Riku is at the clock tower holding Kairi, which was never included in Kingdom Hearts. Shout out to Reed5867 for letting me know about this one. At some point after Sora, Donald and Goofy meet, they were to become acquainted with a robed man who tells them about the Heartless. This robed man is of course Ansem, but in the Kingdom Hearts game we meet him in the secret place on Destiny Islands, not later in the game at Traverse Town like the design document had planned. It was also revealed in the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania that they had planned to have this robed Ansem appear multiple times throughout the story, and was going to appear whenever Sora went to a new world, where he would leave mysterious messages. I assume that these messages evolved into Ansem's reports, which are cool pieces of info regarding the origin of the Heartless, and are similarly found all throughout the game. So one major thing that always annoyed me as a kid was the fact that Alice was considered a Princess of Heart and not Ariel. Although a couple of years ago I found a comment on IMDb's Kingdom Hearts trivia page explaining that Ariel was planned to be a Princess of Heart, but for her to be captured by Maleficent, the story portion of Ursula giving her legs would have had to take place first, and it was already too late in production to add this, so the producers chose Alice as a Princess of Heart. So there you go. I'm assuming a lot of this trivia comes from the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania books that I spoke about before. Since they are all in Japanese and have never been translated, I'm guessing that throughout the years, little bits of information like this have made their way to English. It also makes a lot of sense to me, as most of the cool pieces of deleted content seem to have been removed due to time constraints. Kinda makes you wish they just had a little bit more time. Kingdom Hearts is already my favourite game ever, but hearing about all this cool content that never made it makes you feel like you've ordered your favourite dessert, but later realise you could have got the ice cream on the side. Like, it doesn't need the ice cream, but come on. If it's there, you gotta let me have it, you know? Probably the biggest plot point that was removed was the idea of the Disney heroes from each world coming to rescue their respective princesses. But due to restrictions by who I assume was Disney, characters from independent stories couldn't cross over with each other. So Aladdin wouldn't meet Tarzan was the example given. But what I don't understand is why it's okay for the princesses and villains to cross over, but not the heroes. While this would have been the coolest piece of deleted content, I'm wondering how they would have pulled this off. As we know, the Ariel getting legs story would have had to happen with Prince Eric being introduced. We have Aladdin for Jasmine, Sora for Kairi, and Beast for Belle. the other 3 princes for Snow White, Aurora and Cinderella would have had to make an appearance as well. My theory is that these worlds were all initially planned to be included because, as we know, Nomura wanted 20 plus worlds, or they could have all showed up at Hollow Bastion like Beast. What do you guys think? On that same note, the princesses, as we know, would have been rescued from the Hollow Keep that we talked about earlier, but in that same story synopsis it states that after Sora succeeds in rescuing the princesses, he finds himself face to face with the boss of the Heartless. There are a few theories about who this is. It could be Maleficent, but she is defeated before we rescue the Princesses of Heart in the final story, and if it was Maleficent they would have just said her name. Also, I can't remember where I read or heard about this, but I distinctly remember somebody mentioning that Maleficent was planned to be the final boss of this game at one point in development. If anyone can confirm this, please let me know. The boss of the Heartless could be, and what my gut initially told me, was Darkseid. It would actually make sense that Darkseid would be fought here for the last time, instead of, for example, Riku Ansem, because like I talked about before, the area of Destiny Islands where we fought Darkseid at the end of the game was originally the Crumbling Island area and would have hosted the Riku Ansem boss battle, at least according to what I've read. So maybe these two swapped places. But I wouldn't describe Darkseid as the boss of the Heartless. Also, at some point there was going to be a boss battle with Chernobog at a castle, as seen by this concept art image on the same design document. The only castle I could think of is Hollow Bastion, and so I mean it could have even been Chernobog despite him not being a Heartless. They could have made him like a leader of them, but more than likely they are referring to Ansem, who you perhaps would have had to fight here at Hollow Bastion. Who knows really? If you have any ideas, please let me hear them. So we're about halfway through the video, so if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. So I'm going to create a short section of this video dedicated to the Gummi ship because I think there are some very cool concepts and ideas that were never utilised, so I'm going to give them their own section here. So the Gummi elements of the game went through some major changes, and even the name of the ship itself was referred to all throughout this design document as the SS Gummi block. This was its original name and not the beloved Gummi ship as we know it. Here's a piece of concept art depicting the inside of the Gummi ship with its early design resembling a submarine. It also seems like we were going to be able to move around inside the ship as well, considering there are different areas here. Of course, you couldn't really have this alongside customization, so they scrapped the inside and allowed us to instead change and modify our ship. Ultimately, the right decision in my opinion, as exploring the Gummi ship wouldn't have been that interesting. In fact, we see from this image and piece of concept art that you were originally going to be able to see Sora inside the cockpit of the Gummi ship, and also shows the early concept of Gummi ship customization. In fact, the Gummi ship itself went through a couple of changes, with the design document revealing what the default Gummi ship was going to look like, with its more colourful design and taking the shape of a rubber, or what you guys call erasers. Now within the design document for this game, underneath the world map section, there is a line of text explaining how the Gummi routes, i.e. the paths we fly the Gummi ship on to get to another world, were originally called field maps. It also states that they were planning to have battles, probably fighting large Heartless like in Kingdom Hearts 2, and also supports my theory that those weird Heartless balloons / moons orbiting the early concept art for different worlds were going to be the Gummi ship battles. They also plan to include minigames, probably what evolved into the Gummi missions in Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, clearing traps, not sure what that really means, possibly having to do puzzles, and entering different scenes within the world, which I'm going to guess means that maybe depending on which route or map you flew, this would trigger a different piece of dialogue or slightly altered cutscenes whenever you landed in a world. Like Lucky Ducky 7819 says, if you go to Atlantica but enter the back way, you'll get a different angle for the first cutscene. I think they're right, depending on the route you take to get to a world it may alter the cutscene. Speaking of Gummi ship boss battles, according to Takeshi Endo, the map planning director, in a Kingdom Hearts Ultimania interview, he revealed that the team were planning to make Monstro into a Gummi ship boss battle, but removed it due to programming issues. It's also interestingly that there exists an unused world icon for Hook's ship. Hook's ship is very similar to Monstro in that it attacks us on the world map, so it's likely that this was also going to be a boss battle. When we fly the Gummi ship to Monstro, we get the same animation, where he flies past the ship and then detours to swallow us. This is the same type of animation Hook's ship does, however only once during the game do we get to see the ship like this, as afterwards Hook's ship merges with the Neverland world to create this icon. There's also an unused icon for the Neverland world without Hook's ship, so of course all signs point to Hook's ship being permanently on the world map just like Monstro, and this icon being the version we would have seen for Neverland's world. I wouldn't have minded if they kept them separate, but then Neverland literally would have been just the clock tower, and on the same token, I wouldn't want Hook's ship interrupting me like Monstro every time I fly the Gummi ship to Neverland, so probably the right choice. So yeah, that explains the awkward transition between Hook's ship being on the world map to suddenly being on the water in Neverland. Now let's go over some gameplay features and mechanics that were removed from Kingdom Hearts. Almost all of this comes from the E3 beta trailer that was shown to the public way back in 2001, and this trailer shows early gameplay footage, a lot of the mechanics of which were removed. So the MP cost of each spell was initially going to be shown beside the name of the spell to show how much magic it would take to cast it. I translated these spells into English and they are indeed in the same order as the final game. So we see Fire cost 1 MP, which remained the same in Kingdom Hearts. Blizzard cost 2 MP, Thunder used a whopping 3 MP, and a Cure spell cost 2 MP. In the final game, they didn't use as much MP, as the cost of Blizzard went down to 1 MP, as did Thunder and Cure. The animations for the different spells were also changed, with the Thunder spell having noticeably thinner strands than the final version, and the Fire spell causing more of an explosion rather than a ball of fire as we know it. The character icons for Donald and Goofy also reflected the original appearance that they had at this stage, with a more cartoony look, with Donald having an outrageously long neck and Goofy looking, well, goofier. The icons also reflected their traditional outfits that they had at this stage rather than the RPG style mage and knight designs which were brought in later. The Sora icon remained the same, but the icons originally had a white outline as well, which was removed from the actual game. It's also clear from the trailer that you were actually going to be able to play the game in first person mode, with Sora being able to move around and attack while in first person during the trailer, with the command menu remaining on the screen to accommodate this feature. In an interview with Hiroshi Harada, the main programmer, he explained that from the beginning they would use the select button as a way to go into first person view. He said, "We planned for the player to attack in first person view, but was rejected because it was too hard to fight in this mode." Of course, in Kingdom Hearts, when we enter first person mode, we are unable to move or perform any actions while the command menu disappears, to make first person mode during the final game more of a way to get a close up view of something in the game, rather than a feature to be used in battle. Of course, this feature was reused in later Kingdom Hearts games, where we are able to move around and fight in this mode. I'm glad they kept this for the final game, because Kingdom Hearts 1 has so many Easter eggs and hidden details that can only really be appreciated in first person mode, unlike future installments where the worlds became a lot less interesting. Another interesting feature is that the command menu in the trailer never changed colour during battle, whereas in Kingdom Hearts, when we enter battle, the command menu changes to red and indicates that we can no longer access the pause menu. Another scrapped feature seemed to be the collision between enemies. During this battle scene, we see a soldier Heartless bounce off another soldier Heartless after being hit with fire magic. The only real interaction the Heartless have with each other are when the barrel spiders explode, and so I wish they kept this in the game to make the Heartless feel like they had a bit of weight to them, but perhaps it was too complicated of a mechanic to implement effectively. In some of the concept art, we see Riku using his Keyblade like a snooker cue to pinball Heartless into one another, again reflecting the collision mechanic between enemies that was removed. Sora is also seen summoning Dumbo here in Traverse Town's first district. We would never be able to do this in the game because the only enemies that appear in the first district are the shadows that appear way back when we first arrived at Traverse Town, far too early in the game to have learnt this summon. Plus, for summons to work we need Donald and Goofy in the party as well. From the trailer, it is unclear whether this summon was used outside of battle or not. It seems like it was, but like I said before, the menu colour doesn't change like it does during the release game, so it's hard to tell. Most likely this is just for show during the trailer, as I doubt they would have allowed us to summon outside of combat. But flying around Traverse Town on Dumbo would have been the coolest thing ever. When Sora jumps on Dumbo here as well, he stays the same size, unlike in the final game where Sora shrinks down to fit onto Dumbo's hat. A clear reference to how Timothy Q. Mouse from the Dumbo movie also rides on Dumbo's hat. At some point, I'm not sure if there were like animated attacks planned, similar to those in Kingdom Hearts 2, known as reaction commands, as from the beta trailer there is an animation where Sora runs up the arm of Darkseid and attacks him without being controlled by the player. A similar thing could be happening here in this piece of concept art, where Sora fights Chernabog. Now when we strike an enemy depending on the Keyblade, you get a different effect. Well, with the Kingdom Key we get yellow and blue stars of varying size, whereas in the trailer the Kingdom Key Keyblade creates more uniformly sized and pointier green and purple stars. We even see combat utilising the keychain in what is very likely a deleted ability we never got to see. Even Riku gets a turn to use his Keyblade to attack by whipping it from the keychain. In an interview with Masahide Tanaka, the background modelling director, he explained that they were planning to make the guillotine in Halloween Town's Guillotine Square movable, which isn't in the final game. I think he meant it was going to be able to be activated by hitting it, similar to other objects that you can interact with in the game, like the globe in the Deep Jungles camp or the flowers in Wonderland. In this interview, it was also revealed that there was supposed to be an event that you could activate in Jack's house. This is the area of the Guillotine Square with a set of steps leading to a small house. That building is Jack's house, and although you can get an elixir for ringing the doorbell 3 times, it really does feel like a bit of an empty area, so it's nice to hear that they had more planned for this, and the fact that they used the word in Jack's house potentially means that it was going to be another separate area. Unfortunately, these little details for Halloween Town were removed because of time constraints. Let's move on now and talk about another important aspect of Kingdom Hearts, the enemies. There are many different types of enemies in Kingdom Hearts, from Heartless to Disney villains, and as you can imagine, there were a lot of ideas that were floating about at one stage or another regarding which enemies were to be included, so let's talk about them. So the iconic Assault Rider Heartless, which we know from Mulan's world, the Land of Dragons from Kingdom Hearts 2, was apparently planned to be included in Kingdom Hearts 1. It was removed because it didn't fit with any of the worlds in the game, but as my subscriber King Leonidas 2182 pointed out, they would have actually fit perfectly in the Olympus Coliseum, considering they are centaurs, creatures from Greek mythology. My theory is that they didn't want any common Heartless to be exclusively found in the Olympus Coliseum, with the Coliseum acting as an arena to fight the Heartless found all throughout the game. I don't know, that's the best I've got. It's possible that they were going to be reserved for one of the scrapped worlds, like the Pride Lands, for example. So the Fat Bandit enemy has an unused animation where their large stomach begins to protrude in different directions, like something from Alien. If I had to guess, I'd say this was either an original attack, or in my opinion, most likely the scrapped animation of what would have happened before the Fat Bandit shoots fireballs. You see, when they shoot fireballs, they lean back and quickly shoot them, unlike when they breathe fire, where they take a big breath and then spray the fire. The fireball attack seems a little bit quick for these types of Heartless, so if I had to guess, that is where the animation would have fit. It was probably removed to make these enemies a little bit harder to predict. There's another unused attack animation for the Fat Bandit, where it slaps its belly and jumps into the air, most likely to do a slam attack that causes a shockwave similar to the large bodies, probably removed because of too many similar attacks in the game. This is early concept art of what appears to be a fight at one of the glass panels at the beginning of the game during the Dive to Heart sequence. This blobby monster was possibly the early ideas for Darkseid, but I'm kinda lost with this one, to be honest. Help me out here, guys. One piece of art shows a shirtless boy holding a key type weapon atop a sentient dinosaur skeleton inside a cave. I have no idea what this was meant to be or what it turned into. I know Disney's Dinosaur came out just a couple of years prior, and this could have been an early design for a boss battle involving a heartless possessed T-Rex skeleton. Although it was extremely early in development, as this character model resembles the ones we seen in the Destiny Islands Treehouse, so I'm not going to think too much about it, but if you guys have any ideas, please let me know. We also see from early concept art different ideas and designs regarding the various Heartless in the game. Some of these would get redesigned, like the flying Heartless over here and the other Heartless here with wings that would eventually merge to become an air soldier. And here are the early designs for the soldier Heartless equipped with a tail at this point. They really liked tails, didn't they? This was all backed up by the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania, in which Nomura comments on the soldier Heartless and says that in the early days he was thinking of going with something a little more comical, but the story was getting more serious, so the designs changed to reflect this. And we have a weird looking puppet Heartless, which could have been another influence on the soldier Heartless, as the soldier looks like a mix between these two. This guy surely had to have been redesigned into guard armor. And this spear holding Heartless definitely would have been for the Deep Jungle world, holding a spear just like Tarzan. He was replaced with the annoying Power Wild Heartless. There seems to be a Dynamite holding Heartless which was removed, but could have fit well in the removed Atlantis world.
Hey, I had nothing to do with it.
There's a weird Hornet looking Heartless here, which at a push probably became the Air Pirate Heartless, considering they both fly and have fists. But it would have actually fit really well inside the 100 Acre Woods of all places, considering it resembles a bee and shoots sound instead of an obvious weapon, making it more passive like the 100 Acre Woods. What do you all think? I'd love to get your opinions on these. And the last little detail I want to make a note on that you may have noticed is that the Heartless symbol, which is found on every Heartless, was originally going to be a keyhole. The Manor version of Oogie Boogie at this point went through several creepier designs, with one even having legs and another possibly having a door through which you could enter and potentially fight Oogie from the inside. These distorted versions of Oogie, although disturbing, would have really gave Halloween Town that eerie feel that I thought was missing. According to the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania, Tetsuya Nomura said that the stage before the final form of Ansem, with the final form being the World of Chaos, they had a phantom full body version prepared. I'm not sure what they're referring to. Probably the large monster behind Ansem was going to be legged and fight you on its own, similar to Darkseid. They had a dedicated level completely created for the fight and everything. I wonder if he's referring to the Crumbling Island section of Destiny Islands at the end of the world. Now, when I actually spoke about the Crumbling Island, I said that everywhere I read had claimed that this was planned for the Riku Ansem boss battle. However, there is no evidence for this, plus the area is just too large for a one-on-one fight with Riku, so it wouldn't make sense. So I, ShadyRiku, am going to declare that this Crumbling Island area was the arena planned for this scrapped Phantom of the World of Chaos fight. Considering how large he is, this area makes sense, and based on the evidence, this is my theory, and I'm sticking to it. And let's just wrap everything up with one final section covering everything that didn't make it into Kingdom Hearts that we haven't spoke about yet. Now, we know about the 6 Disney summons that did make it into the game: Simba, Genie, Bambi, Dumbo, Tinkerbell and Mushu, but at some point in the game's development, a recurring summon from the Final Fantasy series was going to be included, a large dragon called Bahamut, most likely being the most powerful of the summons. Personally, as someone who has never played Final Fantasy, I would have loved to try out this summon, and in my opinion a good spot to have obtained the summon gem to learn this summon would have been after the Behemoth fight at the end of the world, just before the final rest. Through hacking, the name can appear on the summons menu, but selecting it will cause the game to crash. It's possible this summon was either replaced by Mushu or removed because they are both dragons and Square wanted to go with the Disney themed summon. Other theories are that Bahamut would have stood out too much, or possibly would have been too big for the game to handle. So the iconic name that we would all recognise, Kingdom Hearts, was at some point in development referred to as Kingdom of Hearts, which, like my subscriber says here, is what all our mums called the game. It also had a completely altered logo to the one that we know and love. It had the word Kingdom in a small and boring font along the top, Of in the centre, and Hearts in the same font that we see in the final logo, albeit a lot blander. They revised this later on in the E3 beta trailer for the game, where the name Kingdom Hearts was finalised. The word Kingdom got some colour and the word Hearts was enhanced and stayed the same, up to the final logo design where Kingdom was given the same font as Hearts. It was all put in one line, and the classic heart symbol was put in the background, which would become a tradition with all future games in the series adopting a heart in the background, which became the series logo. I'm so glad they changed these early logo designs because they were so bland and dull, unlike the game itself, so good job to the team. So a while back I made a YouTube short on the channel showcasing a very obscure piece of info that not many people knew about. This was the appearance of 3 NPC characters that appear in Agrabah after sealing the keyhole. Link to this short will be up in the corner, but within the game's files lies a 4th NPC that was never used, which I will put on screen now. Unlike the other NPCs that appear in the game, which are just reskinned versions of other characters, this unused NPC has a completely unique model of an older gentleman dressed in desert attire that was never used anywhere in the game. Good at Game pointed out that the face looks like Merlin. Yeah, I can see that, but I still believe that they have different models. What do you guys think? Bob Peterson 628 says that that model is based on the Paintings Are Great guy at the Traverse Town Hotel. I mean, we never get to see that person, so we will never know. But at least to me, it would actually make sense if a character like this ran the reception of the hotel. He just looks like a friendly receptionist type, and then, like the other NPCs, could have been reused for Agrabah. We may never know why he wasn't used. Do you guys have any theories? Do you all recognise this song from Wonderland? Well, it's called To Our Surprise, and there exists an unused version of this song in the game's files, which uses completely different instruments. Here's the original again. And the unused one, which I will play for you now. There also exists a separate file containing just an unused trumpet portion of the song, which I will play. I will play this alongside the original and see if you guys like it, so here is To Our Surprise with the deleted trumpet part. And for fun, here's the unused version plus the trumpet. Hope you guys all enjoyed that part. Let me know which was your favourite. Speaking about scrapped animations now, as seen from the concept art in the design document for Kingdom Hearts, we see that when Sora went to perform a summon, the animation was going to include Donald and Goofy turning into balls of light, which Sora would then use to call upon one of the Disney characters, which in this scenario was Dumbo. This actually shows why Donald and Goofy are needed in the party to perform a summon, and why they disappear when we use one, which we never got an explanation for in Kingdom Hearts. They most likely scrapped this to avoid long, drawn-out summon animations, plus it wouldn't make sense with Tinkerbell, who, when summoned, doesn't cause Donald and Goofy to disappear. In the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania book, there is a section composed of different pieces of artwork alongside comments from the game's director Tetsuya Nomura. In this section, he discusses the thoughts behind the designs of many of the weapons in Kingdom Hearts, one of which was the Oathkeeper Keyblade, originally known as the Kairi Keyblade, equipped with a Pau fruit keychain rather than Kairi's lucky charm, which is the keychain in the actual game. So I'm guessing that instead of Kairi giving you her lucky charm in the waterway of Traverse Town, she would have handed Sora a Pau fruit, which would have been much more romantic and fit better into the story in my opinion, as we have no mention of Pau fruits after we leave Destiny Islands, so it would have been a nice callback. Interestingly, his comment at the Oblivion Keyblade reveals that its development name was the Riku Keyblade, and that similar to Kairi giving you the Lucky Charm keychain, they had initially planned to have Riku give you his Lucky Charm, which would have been a black version of Sora's necklace. This actually makes a lot of sense because the Oathkeeper and Oblivion represent light and dark, and having Kairi and Riku give you these would have been perfect for the story. I'm sure the scene with Riku giving you this would have happened at Hollow Bastion just after the fight with Riku Ansem. Maybe after being defeated, like we see in the final game, he gains a little bit of consciousness and then hands Sora this keychain. I'm also not 100% on this, but the Oblivion Keyblade being inside a chest at this area of Hollow Bastion is probably a reference to this, and this answers the age-old question as to why the Oblivion Keyblade was relegated to a chest. Another one of the coolest pieces of content that was removed was the additional outfit changes that the characters would have undergone across different worlds. For example, we see here that in the Deep Jungle world, Sora would have fit in very well with nothing but a loincloth, similar to Tarzan. He would have similarly adopted the style of Agrabah when in Aladdin's world, with more breathable attire to fit the desert atmosphere and shoes to match. Even in the original designs for the Halloween Town world, Sora was sporting a devilish tail, and Goofy was based more heavily on Frankenstein's monster, whereas the Goofy that we actually got is a cross between Frankenstein's monster and a werewolf, which doesn't really do it for me, to be honest. The original design was much cooler and more recognisable. It was also revealed in the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania gallery that Nomura drew the Sora design for Atlantica to explain to Disney the outfit changes planned for each Disney world. Nomura reveals that he actually wanted to spend more time with the design but ended up sticking with his early draft of Merman Sora due to time constraints. Apparently Donald's Atlantica model was also much grosser, in the words of Nomura, and so adjustments were made in order to reach the model we see today. There are many unused and altered quotes that we also get to see from the early trailer for the game. Some of these have grammatical errors as well, likely lost in translation from Japanese, so I will fill in where appropriate. An example of an unused line of text would be becoming isolated, independent of others, which was definitely going to be one of the answers to the question, "What are you so afraid of?" asked by Tidus at the start of the game. In a similar vein, the answer "treasures of my own" was a scrapped answer to "What do you want out of life?" Speaking of which, the three questions asked by Selphie, Tidus and Wakka were going to be, "What are you so afraid of?" which didn't change, "What is it that you really want to do?" which was changed to "What do you want out of life?" "What's most important to you?" which also stayed the same. However, because these questions all appear as lines of text spoken to us by the mysterious voice, it's very likely that Selphie, Tidus and Wakka were not originally intended to ask you these questions, but rather the voice, similar to when we chose our weapon. Especially considering Wakka was created just before the deadline, like we spoke about at the beginning of the video. Speaking of weapons, as they appear in the game, the voice says that power sleeps within you. If you give it form, it will give you strength, which was originally going to be, it will assume a form and in turn give power. And what is the power you wish to have, I imagine was going to be asked just before choosing our dream weapon, while in the game it was kept simple and just says, choose well. With the power of wizardry being the original line of text that would appear to describe the weapon choice for the staff, which was changed to the power of the mystic, and the power of aggression to represent the sword was altered to the power of the warrior. I just don't know, is this world for real or not? Was replaced by the iconic.
Like, is any of this for real? Or not?
Come on guys, we've got to save Sora. Sounds like something Mickey would say, but I'm not sure where this would fit in the story. And please Sora, don't go is definitely from Kairi, but again I can't exactly place where this would fit in the story. If you have any ideas, please let me know. After defeating Darkseid, the voice says, "You are the one who will open the door," which was originally, "You are the one who must open the door." There are many other one-word changes like this, but they are not overly interesting, so we're going to cut this section here, and if you want to decipher some of these yourself, the link to the trailer will be down below. And let's finish off today by going back to the start of the game and talk about the various glass panels depicting the various princesses of Heart. We have Snow White, Aurora, Belle, Cinderella, and a fifth pink panel which is used to represent the other three princesses of Heart, Jasmine, Alice, and Kairi. But as seen from the game's design document, this fifth panel was originally going to be solely dedicated to Alice and the characters from her world, with her panel also adopting a pink style. Here is a HD version of this panel which I was able to find on the Kingdom Hearts wiki, which gives us a good look at what this panel would have looked like in the game, featuring the characters of Wonderland, including the King of Hearts, who actually never appeared in Kingdom Hearts. Perhaps he was planned to make an appearance at this point in development, but was removed because he didn't fit the story. The panel also features the tree from the 1951 movie, cool playing card suit designs, and the entire panel having a clock design with the hour hand, minute hand, and Roman numerals representing the hours. I personally much prefer this to the generic pink panel that we got in the actual game. What about you guys? Which would you have preferred? And that just about wraps it up. Again, I just want to thank you all so much for the monumental support on the channel. It means a lot. Links to all the sources I used to gather the info in today's video are down in the description. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. I encourage you all to join the Discord, and if you would like your name to appear here at the outro, or you would like to see more deleted content not just for Kingdom Hearts Final Mix but for all the other games in the series, go join the ShadyRiku Patreon. Once again, I've been ShadyRiku. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all on the next one. Take care.